Work, but with that, Minister, can you conclude? Again, 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, President Officer. In closing for the Government, I want to make clear again some key points. The Government has delivered more routes, more trains, more people travelling on those trains, more stations and greater frequency. Secondly, we shouldn't forget the huge impact of the pandemic, the need to lock down the country and transport services for all but essential travel purposes has had a long-lasting impact. That is why we've just announced a further extension of the Emergency Measures Agreement to provide additional support for ScotRail. We did that on Monday. Our rail services, sadly, are effectively hemorrhaging cash and are running at much more substantive losses than previously. We have to get our railway back onto a surer financial footing whilst also planning for long-term service delivery. Let me be clear. We are determined to do all we can to restore passenger service levels to where they were pre-pandemic, but we face challenges in the short term. The timetable proposals in many areas actually mean better and more frequent services. I appreciate that is cold comfort for those which are facing fewer services than currently, at least in the short term. But it is a consultation. It's a starting, not an end point. And I encourage, very briefly.
Neil Bibby.
I asked specifically the Minister about the Glasgow, Queen Street to Edinburgh Waverley service via Falkirk High. It's been described as the flagship service between our two largest cities. You shouldn't have to be waiting half an hour to get a train between our two largest cities. Surely the Minister can rule out those cuts are 26%.
As usual, dealing in facts is problematic for Mr Bibby, because let me throw another fact back at him. That service is the one that washes its face on our network, the one service. And those seats are occupied only 26% of the time. That exemplifies the challenge we face about uses. Beatrice Wishart was absolutely right in what she said about the future not being running empty trains. We have to get real about this. Going back to the point about the consultation, I would absolutely encourage members to do as Liz Smith has done, as Mark Roscoe has done, to get involved in the consultation process. Now, the Labour motion calls for full restoration service levels to pre-COVID, regardless of affordability. What about the new services proposed to be introduced from May the 22nd? Are they to be ditched, or are they suggesting we keep them and add them back in on top of the old services? Because let me tell you, Presiding Officer, you cannot run the same carriages at the same time in different locations. A number of members rightly have raised the issue about the pay claims and industrial action. Graham Simpson and Mark Ruskell called for a getting round the table. I can advise them and others that such engagement is underway and has been. The unions and management are currently looking at a way forward around pay claims, a way forward that can be made. I know that because I've actively encouraged them to do that, and I've been engaged with a number of the unions. The Government agrees that rail employees deserve to be treated and paid fairly. As Transport Minister, I've challenged, briefly, if I do have time, Presiding Officer?
Graham Simpson, as briefly as possible.
Yeah, very quickly. Just on that point about getting around the table, can you explain further what that actually is? Is it mediation?
Minister.
I need to be careful here on what I say, because this is a matter between the unions and Belleville ScotRail, but there are discussions taking place. I can say that, confirm that much. The Government agrees that rail employees deserve to be treated and paid fairly. As Transport Minister, I have challenged all parties to identify efficiencies to free up the funding needed to deliver fair and reasonable pay settlements. And I reiterate, Presiding Officer, these need to come from all quarters, including from our strategic relationship with Network Rail. Now, in the SNP, we contend that a fully integrated, publicly controlled railway, not the separation of track and trainers at present, would best serve the needs of staff, customers and the public purse. But alongside pressing the case for that, we will continue to engage with the ORR, seeking a better deal. Because does anyone really believe that paying £815 million per annum for the maintenance of and access to Scotland's rail track alone represents value for money? If we are to reduce overheads, maintain and grow employment levels, increase services and be able to further invest in the network, then this issue has to be addressed. We have a vision for the future of Scotland's railways based on service improvement, fair work and the decarbonisation of passenger rail services. And to answer the question that was asked earlier, we will update Parliament on all of this before the end of the year. But I want to say now, for the avoidance of any doubt, within that we intend that staff and passenger representation will play a key role in shaping the future direction and governance of the new organisation. We also have ambitions to facilitate a marked increase in rail freight, Presiding Officer, to help meet Scotland's net zero ambitions, as Beatrice Wishart and Emma Roddick called for. Now, I note that the Labour motion fails to mention rail freight. I'm assuming that's just an oversight, because our vision for rail freight is a competitive, sustainable rail freight sector playing an increasing role in Scotland's economic growth by providing a safer, greener and more efficient way of transporting products and materials. And I know that's a vision shared by the trade unions. Presiding Officer, our commitment, long-term commitment to rail remains undiminished. We have some difficult immediate challenges to overcome, but with a real-world approach to addressing these, we can overcome them. We can get Scotland's railway truly fit for the future, a future which meets the needs of the public, is a fair work employer and plays a leading role in cutting transport emissions.
Thank you.